Hello and welcome. In today's video, we'll see how you can use Vcad in an existing Power BI report. We'll go through 3 simple steps: importing the visual, bringing in the model data, and setting up the actual model rendering inside our report. So for starters, let's get to Power BI, and you can see here I have set up an initial report. You can imagine I've been working on my report and we're bringing in data from my project. In this case, I have some WBSs breaking down the progress on site with the connected costs. Now this is a very basic report, but the same procedure works for more advanced reports as well. So there's a couple things we're going to want to do. We're going to want to bring in the custom visual, as we said, and also the data. So for the custom visual, it's very simple. All we want to do is we want to go over to here where we have the section where we get more visuals. Let's get more visuals. And this will open up the Microsoft Power BI AppSource, which is basically a store of custom visuals that can be installed in Power BI. Now, amongst these, of course, you can search for any type of term. If you're looking for a slicer, if you're looking for something with BIM, like in our case, you could just search for that. Or if you actually know the name of the visual, which in this case is, of course, Vcad, we can go ahead and type that in. And here we see the Vcad custom visual. So I'm going to select it. This will show up a bit of a preview. If you are interested, if you're just getting started with Vcad and you actually want to test out a full report with some functionality, you can go ahead and download the sample. Or if, like we're doing right now, we're adding it to our report, we can just click Add. So this will go ahead and add the custom visual. You can see import successful to our report. So now I can find it over here in my actual visuals. Getting the visual from the app source is the best solution because you're sure to always have the most up-to-date version when you're creating your reports. So now we have our Vcad viewer, and if I wanted, I could just add a new page just to test it out and add in an instance of the viewer. However, let's make this front and center and a little larger. So you can see here we have the Vcad custom visual. It's all ready to go. However, we need to set up the configuration. Now here there is some guiding on how to do it, but this is also the point of the video, so I'll go ahead and explain. So what we want to do is, first thing, we need to pass in some data in the object ID over here. So to do that, we actually need to bring our model data inside the report. So let's switch on back to the Vcad file manager where we'll find this information. So in the Vcad file manager here, I have a series of models available. And let's say I want to bring in this rack model over here, which is the model for the report, for the data that I already have in my report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 things. Number one, for starters, we're going to go over to templates. I'm going to go ahead and download the generic template because I'm going to want to copy the data sets over. Now you can do this any way you want. You can bring in the data manually, you can use the data download, you can set up the API call, but for us the simplest solution is just to copy the work that's already been done in the main reports. So you can go ahead and download the template over here. I've already downloaded it, so I'll just bring it up. So I have it over here. It's on the wrong screen. Here we have it. So this is my basic simple template for that model that we were looking at before, for that rack model. And you can see, of course, with our basic templates, not only do you have the rendering of the model itself, but of course also all the data sets. So let's go ahead and bring over the data sets that we want from this template. So to do that, let's go on over to transform data. And we're going to have a look at the actual data sets. Now, what we need in our final report is Vcad assets and Vcad properties. And the nice thing of Power BI is if we go ahead and select these 2 queries and then Control C, now we can just paste them along in the other report. And it's smart enough that it will bring along all its dependencies as well. So let's go ahead and open up from our starting report over here. I'm going to go to transform data again. Let's bring this over. So you can see here in my initial report, it's very simple. I only have 1 query, which is pulling from a CSV file in my case. Let's set up a new group. We're going to call this Vcad data, just so I have a little organization in here. And then with my Vcad data selected, I'm going to Control V to paste in the queries. And you'll see it brought in Vcad assets, it brought in Vcad properties, but also brought in all the dependencies. And this is a nice way, this way you even know exactly what is needed for everything to run. So Vcad assets, if you have a look at the datasets, has a dependency on Vcad, assets parquet, which in turn, if you have a look, has a dependency on this Vcad funcad file, which is actually the function that goes ahead and downloads the Vcad datasets using the Vcad APIs. If you're ever curious, you can have a look in the advanced editor, and this is how everything works. Now, we're not going to go into the detail of the API calls in this case. That's a little more technical. It's not what we want to focus on today. Simplest way is just Control C, Control V, and that way we have all the dependencies and everything ready to go. Now that I have all this data, I can go ahead and I can close and apply. And now my report will go through and actually load the entire data sets. So it'll run through all those queries and all those steps and retrieve all the required data. Great, so here I have my data sets. And in these, as we said, we have Vcad assets. So now what I can do is I can just drop in that object ID over here in the field panel. Great, and you can see also my viewer here now has updated. It's telling me, okay, I see you given me the object ID. Now I need information about the slot ID that's supposed to be loaded. So we're telling the viewer which objects to show, but we haven't told it which model to show. To do that, we're going to go to the Format Your Visual panel. And in here, the important section here is model data. So you'll see the viewer comes with some defaults. Normally, you won't be touching this. So the vcad API.it, this is data URL, as well as the viewer URL. You can go ahead and leave the defaults here. What we need to give it is the actual slot ID. Now again, two ways. We can either find it here in our queries. In fact, if we have a look, let's have a look at the data sets. You'll notice here I have a Vcad UID file. So this is the slot ID for the model data that has been loaded. I could also pull that up from the Vcad file manager here in my template window. Here I have that same slot ID, that's 787. To make sure that everything is consistent and working properly though, you probably want to use the same variable that is over here. So here you can do two things. Let's go ahead and copy this value, go back to the viewer, and we can either paste this in statically. You can see already the viewer is ready to go. It saw the slide ID, it has the object ID, it's going to go ahead and load in the model. I do want to show you though a more advanced way to do this. So if we clear this out again, another option, let's select the viewer again, model data, is to actually feed in the parameter that we've set up. This is what our regular templates do. That way, if tomorrow I wanted to switch out the slot ID that was used in this report, all I have to do is change this parameter. To do that, I can go to conditional formatting. I'm going to use a field value, and I'm going to pass in the Vcad GUID file over here. Go ahead and press OK. And this is doing the same thing as if I had pasted in the slot ID, but it's now reading directly from this query. Now if I switch tabs and come back again, we'll give the viewer a chance to refresh, and we can see that everything is working correctly. So we can see our model is now loaded in, and we can go ahead and start using it in our report. Now, this is all good, and I could start building out my report here. So for example, I can add a table, and because we've loaded in those queries, I actually have access to things like the name of the object type, and I can start making my selections and highlighting my items in my report, and so on. So everything is already good to go. But my initial objective wasn't just to bring in the model inside my report. It's actually to connect it to my existing dashboard. So to do that, we need to work a little with the data. So let's have a look at what my WBS data looks like, and let's figure out how we can connect that information. So let's move over to the table view, and let's have a look at that WBS data. So here you can see I have the information of my WBSs. I have the unit cost for a series of objects that need to be installed, and I have an actual installation date. Also, I have an IFC GUID. So this is a property that uniquely identifies a geometry in my BIM model. So this is what I can use as a connection to my data. Now, this will be different for all your reports. It depends on what software you're using to set up your external data. So this bridge that we're going to be establishing now will vary from case to case. But the theory is always the same. I have my data, I have some sort of bridge parameter, and now I need to highlight that bridge parameter from my model so that I can use it as a connection. So to do that, let's head on over. Let's verify that everything is correct. So if I copy a value, for example here, let's take this value. And I just want to make sure that this is actually the correct data I'm looking at. So if we go to Vcad properties now, this is where we see all the properties of all the objects in the model. And a very simple check is just to paste this in here and see that, yes, the parameter actually does exist in my dataset. And actually, I can see there are two places I can find it. I can find it under the element ID name or under element IFC GUID. So both of these routes are good. If I am familiar with the BIM file, I can make a more informed decision on which one to use. And in this case, I'll tell you we're going to go with the element IFC GUID. So let's make a quick note of this section and name because we're going to use them in our transformations. So let's move on over to the transform data panel. And here, as I was saying, what we want to do is we want to highlight that one property that we need. So we're going to start from Vcad properties. And let's go ahead and create a reference. And this one we're going to call IFC GUIDs. So this will be a list of my IFC GUIDs. Now, to filter this out, I want to go ahead and select the section element, as we saw earlier. And the name will be IFC GUID. Here we have it. I could do this with any number of properties. In this case, we're going to keep it simple. I just want this one attribute. So the important thing is what I have now is a single row for each object ID with parameter name and a value. To keep things super safe, I can go ahead and merge the section and name value just so I know that even if there were cases of properties with the same name in different sections, this would always give me a unique identifier. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to merge these two columns. This is just future proofing for your reports. You want to make sure that everything is clean and that we don't have any sort of issues coming along down the line if we update the model. So this will be section-name, and as a separator, I'm going to do a custom character and add in this dash. So let's go ahead and press OK. So now I have my section name, which is element IFC GUID, and I have my values. So let's select these three columns, remove other columns because we're not interested in them right now, and then selecting section name, I can go ahead and under transform, I can select pivot column. This is the most flexible way, especially if you're going to be using multiple properties. Otherwise, I could just rename the column over here. But to keep this as generic as possible, I'm just going to go and say in the value, I want to use the value column. And then under advanced options here, I'm going to not aggregate anything. So what this does is basically it switches around, it rotates the columns. And so now I have a single row for each object ID with an IFC GUID value for each one. Great. I probably want to go ahead and there's two ways I could do this. I could either create a relationship between IFC GUIDs, assets, and my WBS data. Or to keep things more streamlined, I can merge this data back into Vcad Assets. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's go over to Vcad Assets. And under Home, I can do Merge Queries. And we can go ahead and merge in our IFC GUIDs. Of course, we're going to use the object ID as a reference. Go ahead and press OK. and then simply expand the table. I only want my element IFCGUID column. Okay, so now every object that has an IFCGUID will have it next to it over here. Now you'll notice not all objects have them, because here we have all sorts of levels in my tree of objects. So not everything will have an IFCGUID, and that's perfectly fine. However, for my interests in this case, we only want the ones that actually have them. So again, I could either filter it here previously, or you can go ahead and filter it in the report, depending on what we want to do. For today, let's go ahead and just filter it here. Keep it simple. So I'm going to exclude everything else. Now the objects that I have here are only objects that actually have an element IFCGUID. Let's go ahead and apply this transformation. So once everything is refreshed, I can head on over back to my report. And now I do want to create a relationship, unless Power BI already did that for me, which it might. Let's see. Let's bring along, no, so it created a relationship between this other table, which I don't actually need, so let's delete it. Okay, and now I can create a relationship between my Vcad asset data and my WBS data. Of course, going through the IFCGUID. So let's go ahead and connect these two. This will be a many to many, it's fine. Let's go ahead and save. And I want it bidirectional. Now let's head on back to my report view. Okay, so now what I can actually do is I can, let's again do it simple. I'll just copy the viewer instance that I have over here. I could just start over and reconfigure it over there, but we're lazy, so we're just going to Control-C, go over to WBS's, make some room. I probably want to play around with the layout more. For now, we're just going to paste it in right here and size it up a bit. In fact, what we could do is we could reduce these a bit. And actually stretch this out. So if I had a little more time and concentration, I could make this look all pretty. But for now, this is fine. Only thing I will do is I will switch these around to a vertical list. That way it's a little clearer. You'll see I have this blank space here. This is just because I resized it as it was already loading. Let's go ahead and place it the way we want. Okay, so now it updated. Great. So now let's check if that connection is actually working correctly. So if I select WBS1 over here, you can see something changed here. Let's go ahead and hide not selected elements. And you can see now the objects that I'm seeing are only the objects that are in this WBS. To get a better idea of what we're talking about, here we probably could add an additional row for, let's say, element IFCGUID. So here, if I expand the WBS, I have the actual objects, and each object has its install date. And again, here we probably want to work a bit with the layout, but we're going to leave this for a future step. For now, we're just interested in actually seeing that everything works correctly. And we can see, yeah, if I switch around through the WBSs, I have the selection coming along. The other nice thing is because I already had worked on a theme here that I used for my charts to show the status of complete and not complete. So basically, if I have a look at my WBS data, here I have a column called status color, which basically for each object tells me if it's installed or not, and it gives me a different color. I can actually go ahead and I can apply this in my model. So it's really simple. I just want to scroll down to highlight color, and from my WBS data, I'm going to bring in that status. Next up, I'm going to go to format your visual, and I'm going to show theme color, apply this, and actually I'm going to set the default index to 1. That way it gets loaded up when my viewer first starts out. And now if I switch tabs again, come back, You can see my model gets loaded in. I have the data connections and the status color is being applied as well. And also I could go ahead and hide with this selected. And now I can see for each selection that I make, I can see the objects in the WBSs that I'm exploring and the objects with the correct status connected to them. Great. So this has been a very quick video. We've successfully added Vcad from our Vcad environment into an existing Power BI report. We can now combine this data with any other data sets that we want and keep enhancing our data-driven dashboards. For now, this is what I'll leave you with. For more tutorials, please go ahead and stay tuned in our YouTube page. And if you're interested, check out our blog on bimservices.it. For now, thank you. I'll see you next time.